Yep.
Awesome. We are live now. Hello, everyone. Hi, Stravia. How are you?
Hi, Mary. I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm so excited actually because I've been looking forward to this session for a while now. And I'm finally happy to see you on Break into Data stage.
Yeah,
But
absolute pleasure. It's been great knowing you and looking at your content and all the great stuff you're doing. And it's my pleasure to be part of this. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, whoever is here, say hi in the chat. So I'm streaming on two platforms. We have LinkedIn today and we have YouTube. So whoever registered is on YouTube, say hi. Where are you guys joining from? This is going to be an engaging, very packed with value with the Stravius experience because I am honestly so excited to have her today just because it's our first time having a hiring manager's perspective and I feel like everyone here today can get so much value. So I'm excited. And also, Stravia, congratulations on launching your podcast. I know, tell us a little bit about it and so people can check it out later.
Yeah. So we have a podcast called Data Neighbors Podcast. So you could check out the channel link in my profile. It's like I featured it. And I'm pretty excited about it. I started it with two of my friends from my previous workplace, Hi and Sean. You might have seen Sean Butler around. He tries to post something on LinkedIn. And all three of us come from different backgrounds. I'm a manager, and Hi is like a director, head of data science in his previous companies, and Sean's like an IC, principal data scientist. We want to chat with all types of data professionals from different parts of the world, and probably get different parts of the world access to the stuff that we have in Silicon Valley, because all of us are placed in Silicon Valley, California. So I'm pretty excited to share these stories of, um, you know, data science and things around data science here. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, and I'm sharing the link to the podcast and Stravia's LinkedIn, guys. So if you haven't already followed her, please follow her because Stravia is also a content creator on LinkedIn and she shares about her journey, about the practical tips of data science career. So make sure to follow her if you haven't already. But yeah, I think we can get started. And I just wanted to share a little bit of today's agenda. So today we're going to talk about hiring manager's perspective, and we'll learn everything about the process, the hiring process from the other side, which is very like I think that's a privilege, honestly, just because so many people out there are blindly applying and they do not know what to expect. And when we had this registration for the event, we received so many questions actually about the hiring process. How do they say behind the scenes? And today we're going to talk everything about that and Stravia's career path in data science because I feel like these are the people that you want to learn from who's been in the industry for more than 10 years. And Stravia started out as an intern while she was in college. And she shares a lot about her journey on her LinkedIn as well. But yeah, this is what we're going to talk about today. I'm excited, Stravia. Are you?
Yes, absolutely. Please dive in. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, before we get started, I did want to share a little bit about our just a second about our community so that you guys know what's up just because we have these events every single week and we have data scientists, data analysts and data engineers as well as machine learning and AI engineers because that's my main focus on the content, but the community itself is like a bigger ecosystem of like data professionals. So make sure to follow us and check out these previous sessions we had on our YouTube page if you haven't already. And also, I did want to share that we are a real community that helps people land a job in data, and we host these type of events as well as coding challenges on our platform. And make sure to check out all of the resources that we have available on our LinkedIn page as well. But for those who are serious about landing a job in data within next 6 months to a year, then I highly encourage you to check out the upcoming launch of our community that's called Breaking to Data Pro. And that's where you get private career related events, coaching sessions, workshops for optimizing your resumes, building a portfolio, preparing for an interview. So basically, everything that is inside, like how to break into data. That's why the name, So that's all. And we're launching it this week, actually. And if you are going to be one of the first 20 signups, you'll get a free coaching session from me. So make sure to scan the code while because I'm just going to remove it once we start today's session. But make sure to scan this code. I don't know if you guys can see it. And we'll get started with our today's event. If you have any questions about the community, feel free to ask me later on. But let's get started. All right. Oops. Uh, awesome. Oops. Let me. Great. So, Stravia, uh, let me pull up my favorite question that I wanted to ask you for today. So I know, for the folks that don't know, you have worked in so many big names in data science field, including Microsoft. I know that's how your story began as an intern, and you have a wonderful story on LinkedIn. And you also worked at eBay, and you worked at Nextdoor, and you now work as a senior manager at Grammarly. And I think that's just an interesting journey in and of itself. And however, why don't we get started with the hiring process? Just because I want people to understand the context of like what it takes to land a job, and what is the hiring process looks like, what kind of like steps are there actually.
Sure, definitely. So I actually want everyone to get the context behind the entire hiring and, why do we even hire, right? So if you think of this, guys, like every company has a business model. They have a problem to solve, and there are different roles that are needed to solve that problem. Engineers need to build applications. Product managers need to be there to make sure that we know what we are going after and we have right metrics. They work with people like data scientists and others to do that. And we need data scientists and data analysts and people in the data world to make sure that the data is captured and we make right decisions with the data, and also make sure if there are applications that need machine learning, that also we model the data and use those applications with machine learning capabilities. So these are like what the world is out there, what the companies offer. They solve problems, and every company has a different domain that they work in. They solve problem. Now, how does even the hiring process start? A manager, a leader in that space is like strategic. They think strategic, right? We are here. We want to go to from place A to place B, and we need to work on these ten projects to get there. How many people do we have to make sure that we need these projects to get done today? And do we have all types of roles that we need to support that project to completion and success, right? And then we figure it out and come up with planning. And then we are like, hey, I'll need two DSs here. I'll need five engineers here. I'll probably move people from ML engineer from that team to this team. So what are we lacking? We probably need two data scientists. Do we need junior or senior? We probably need one junior and a senior to tag team to make sure that, the junior learns from the senior and go from there, right? This is entirely basically dependent on the team structure that the company has, the type of problem you're going after. Is it more of a product experimentation? Like, it's more of a UI related or like a backend related problem that needs to be experimented a ton, which happens a lot in the growth space, which where I'm part of. And if it's a core application, it's more of research and product building, where you'd see more of, if in the data science world, you'll see more of machine learning and a deeper level of more technical areas, right? um, eh, mm, te- A/B testing is also very technical, but it's different type of technical. It's more statistical analysis and statistical rigor and all of that. So once we identify the type of problem, once we identify the type of people we need for the problem, we are like, these are the headcount that we want to go after. Now, an entirely different role emerges to help us. That's the recruiting system, right? Recruiting system, again, has multiple people. We have a sourcer who goes after and finds right people for the job. And you have the recruiter themselves who basically starts uh, creating these applications in the ATS, the tracking system, the application tracking system. ATS, the very popular word in our LinkedIn world about resumes, right? So they basically use that system to start an application to send out the application to LinkedIn, have create job posts, and this tracking system basically tracks all these resumes and applications into it. And recruiters work mostly themselves to either they basically work with the hiring manager to understand the profile that someone's looking into. So if let's say I'm hiring for 3 data scientists, one data scientist I'd probably need with lots of experimentation and A/B testing and more product analytics and product sense, and the other I would need a full stack data scientist who should have ML model related deployment skills and all of that. That does not mean the first one I would not want them to be ML, but I want them to be ML 101. But the second, maybe I want them to be ML 201. And maybe there's another junior data scientist role in product that I don't expect them to would have, solved ML problem. They probably would have helped feature engineering or other stuff. So coming up, discussing this with the recruiter and understanding, hey guys, I am looking for this particular skill set in these roles. They need to have these basic requirements, but I need them to be really good at this. I hand these requirements to the recruiter. They take it off and they make sure that they have the job description, they screen resumes with that, and things like that. So I would say recruiters and recruiting team do majority of the screening. They give, I would say, maybe 2% or 5% resumes to us, right? And then we screen based on what I particularly am looking for, right? And then the hiring process, or like the process starts, right?
Mhm.
So, but there's another thing, maybe you'll have a question about it later, but organically I could talk about it, is if you want to be a person that stands out in this process, because we have tons and tons of resumes come through, especially for a junior role, right?
Mhm.
The only way to stand out is basically networking and having a referral,
Mm.
which is a second contact to the hiring manager or a second level. Basically, you get a referral from an employee in the company, and that person probably sends the resume internally. If they're or if you really impress them, they'll probably send a Slack to me directly,
Mm.
right? Hey, this is a really good person that I worked with in the past. They are top 5%. They are like the best person that I've worked at. You definitely want to look at this resume, right? So it's two levels of referrals, maybe in that, probably, right? And
Mm.
then based on how the hiring manager feels about it, they either make them go through the system, like the regular system, or they're like, I really like this person. Let's just, get on a call with them. And so you jump loops, basically you jump levels when you do this. And the
Interesting.
other way to do this is basically, if you don't know, cold messaging people on LinkedIn. There's still nothing wrong with it. You might not get replies at all, maybe a 0.1% reply or 0.01 if you're doing that a lot, but it's still something possible if you have a great message crafted. So yeah.
Mhm. Interesting. I love that. I love how you immediately suggested like tactics on how to get ahead among other people. But I'm curious though, like from your experience, you said people actually like Slack message you with someone's resume. How many of your like hires? Because I know you mentioned when we talked previously, you did like hundreds and hundreds of screenings, and you probably hired like 9 to 10 people in your career. And out of those, how many did you hire from referrals, and how many were just like purely from the process, the hiring process?
I would say 50%, 30, 40, maybe even, yeah. Depending on how much network you have as a person, too, right? So the higher the network of the person, the higher that you basically hire people from your own network, and network, right?
Mm.
So referrals are very important, especially in it depends again on the level. also, because if you're hiring for a senior staff level data scientist with like 10 years of experience or more, you want someone pretty solid. If the problem you're trying to solve is a very important problem as well, because the company or the area's success depends on that person.
Mm,
So for those, referrals are sometimes even more important. But for maybe probably junior roles, is less of that happening. uh,
mm,
it's more of, I've actually definitely looked into, I'm not sure about hiring if they went through the entire process and we hired them, but they definitely went through the loop through LinkedIn messages for sure, if not just mine, through like a peer manager's LinkedIn message. Because when we have a posting from our company saying data scientist, they kind of reach out to all managers. No one knows who is the manager that's
uh,
going to be the posting under. So my peers also get messages,
oh.
and they also craft, like, they're like, hey, this candidate stood out, probably we can, look into this and things like that. Yeah.
Interesting. I thought, like, because I see all these like hiring managers saying like, okay, we have an opening, and bunch of people just like flood their DMs, and I always thought that they don't look through like hundreds and hundreds of messages. I thought that did not make a difference, but you're saying it does. So, like, what do you think? What kind of message does usually stand out for you? Like, somebody's asking here the same question. Yeah.
So, a message that stands out, there was a podcast that we did actually with a senior director of Instacart, who's been a senior director at Meta as well, data science manager. And he actually gave a very, like, funny but wonderful answer to this. I'll definitely, uh, tell you all to check that out. So, he talks about someone who reached out to him. This was for a junior role, about a spelling mistake in the job description. Like, how amazing is that? You wouldn't expect. So he was like, "Hey, Gene, so this is Gene Tabak. He is a former head of ecosystem data science at Meta, and now he's like a senior director at Instacart." And he was like, "There was this person who just sent like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that there was this, mistake in your job description. Probably you want to know about it. You were not aware, so please correct it. And by the way, I really love." What Instacart does, or maybe this was Meta, maybe, and he was like, I love what this company does, and I perfectly fit for the job description, and please let me know if you'd be interested to get on a call with me or your recruiter. It was apparently a simple message, a direct message, giving value to the other person,
Mm,
right? And slowly giving like a resume and telling them why they fit for that role, and they also would want the job.
mm,
So I'm not telling for all of you guys to just go and look at, spelling mistakes, especially in this world where you'll not find one. But what I'm trying to say, and what Gene was also telling us in the podcast when we met him, was think about showing up, like, come up with a value. Everyone in this world, you might feel like, I'm just a 1 year experienced person. I don't even know data science, probably. I'm just a graduate. I'm just studying. Or I'm not even in data field. What can I tell of something of value to the senior director? But guess what? Everyone has some needs in their career from where they are, or it could be just, according to Gene, the need of actually being able to help someone who is really good. And all you need is to give them that value back to them, right? Not just always being like, how can I get value from them, but think also about what can you give to someone else, right?
mm,
And this, I would say, is a great value system, not just for just a LinkedIn message, just in your career, in regular personal relationships. If you always think of this as like this, what can I give that person, before you think of what can I get as a
mm.
value, right? So I can give some of the examples. Imagine you want this role in a startup, and if you all could think of what does a startup, has problem with in general, they would need genuine feedback on the product.
Oh.
They it's Actually, people look through the product reviews and app reviews. They take them very seriously. They want to understand how to improve the product, and you are a customer for the product, right? And your review on the exact pain points, one, two, three. Also, the most important thing is to be simple and precise, because no one has time to go through paragraphs and paragraphs. So that, I would say, is like the basic. But once you get that covered, think of what value you can give that person. If it's a smaller company, think of how they would benefit from your input, right? And let's say if it's Meta, right? Then you could probably tell about, if it's an Instagram data scientist, you could give, I'm sure all of you use your Instagram, you could probably talk about, hey, I've seen this very interesting hypothesis. I'm sure you guys are testing on it, but if you are, you could probably do this too. And by the way, I'm interested in this data profile, like, data science job, like as simple. It is
Mm,
definitely, I mean, I hope if everyone does it, probably it'll become generic, but I bet not everyone does this. I,
mm.
I don't see any messages like this where
No.
everyone's just generally, hi, name of the person. Sometimes they even copy paste the name from the previous. Sometimes it also says in the brackets name. They don't even replace the name, they forget it. And then it's a generic copy pasted message. So if you do
Interesting.
that, there's not going to be. So quality is equal to the output. So if you don't have a good quality message, you'll not get the reply. Yeah.
Mm. That is, I love that you're bringing this perspective, just because, when you're in the shoes of someone who is looking to get hired within the next, like, let's say 3 to 6 months, just because they have an immigration deadline or like financial struggles, the only thing they think is usually like, how do I apply like as much as I can and blindly, so that there's one like chance like to get a job. But you're saying you actually need to slow down and understand the company better, what kind of challenges they have, and how you can bring in the value. This is such a great lesson, everyone. I hope you guys are writing it down, because this is definitely going to change things. But I had a follow-up question on that. As you mentioned, like, about junior data scientists, I feel like I am always curious, is there such a thing as like junior data scientists, especially in this job market? What, and if there is, does it depend on the company? For instance, if the company is like larger, let's say like Microsoft, they probably need more juniors just because they have more roles. But like startups might need a little bit more experienced people, just because they don't have time to like teach someone to do it in production. But what do you think? Does it exist?
So it depends on, I would say, the type of problems that we are trying to solve and the existing ecosystem of professionals in the same company, right? So if my company and my org has already like really senior folk, I'll probably go for junior folk when I have a new opening, because I need people in my team to have someone to mentor, because mentoring is a great way of growing a senior professional in your company too. So it is entirely going to be dependent on the problems that you want to be solved, and you have right people to solve them. And if they're already more leaning towards senior, then you would want more junior. But in general, probably I understand your hypothesis that could be true, but that's definitely not set in stone.
Hmm.
So what it's actually great to make sure, irrespective of that person's hiring versus not, just maybe sending out a message to them and making sure that you are in their radar or of some sort, right? Making sure
Mhm.
your message, like I already told in the past, shows a difference, like you remember that person. Like there was this person from, I don't exactly remember the name, but I think 8 months ago, that messaged me about, and he just passed out of masters, and he probably has like one or two interns. But I remember him for his message and for his resume, like how because it's very hard to go through all these messages, and probably something in the subject, something in the first line, this just stands out, and you look through the thing, and then you're like, oh, this is a pretty high quality candidate, and I remember him. So if I'm going to have like a 2 years of experience, job posting from now on, I'll probably go back and look at that message, probably search for some keywords I remember right now about him, and find that person and see where he's at, and probably like, hey, we have this opening now, and if you're interested. That could happen if you can do something where you basically literally stand out. I'm not saying this you expect this out of every message, not at all, because the probability probably is really low, but there's nothing wrong in keeping some time a week to keep trying to maintain this, sending these messages, and making these relationships. At
Mm.
least if you get the contact out, if they get the connect out of the LinkedIn from them, they are just one connection away, right, for you. So yeah.
Mhm. I see. So always also try to look for long-term relationships. Even if the job is not like ready for you now, it can be in the future. You never know. It's a long-term game. But
Yep.
going back to the resumes, you mentioned that most of the work is done by recruiters, but they do, as you said, bring like 2% of the resumes to you. And out of those resumes, do you look for like keywords, or what does need to stand out in those resumes for you to like, okay, I want to talk to this person?
Sure. So, Mary, I want to like every time for all of us, I really think the whole principle that I spoke about, thinking of the value that you can bring in, right? So, if the person's resume tells me that they know how to bring value to the company they're part of, and if that resonates to me, that means that I don't have to teach them that, right? Because people come from, I had people come from Ivy Leagues. And when I was younger, as a manager, I used to just literally, I'm like, wow, this is a great, profile coming
Mm,
from these great schools with that great GPA. I just went, used to go on a call with them just because I found their, like
mm,
academic profile really good. And when I
mm,
get on a call with them, irrespective of what they've written in the experience, because I was like, when I was younger, like, 5, 10, 5, 6 years ago, I used to feel like, oh, wow, this should be a good candidate. He got into those schools and those programs, right? You get on a call with them, you understand they basically do not know about how to create value to the company they're part of, like how to be impactful and things like that. They probably got their first job because of their candidates, their profile,
mm,
but they probably are not going to do a good job. And from then on, I started being very strict and about how a resume should be. That to me, like I already said, it should show the value that they created wherever they were. Were you just a master's graduate? What value did you create there? Were you doing something around your masters, whatever you were doing? Were you like maybe uh, like a leader in one of those, like, I don't know, BA analytics clubs? Or did you do like a hackathon? Because you have access to tons of things as a master student. How many did you do that makes you stand out than your peers around you, right? That tells
mm,
me how much you uh, took your master seriously, how much you took your studentship seriously. So that's like an example of person who does not have any experience, right? And for people with experience, I basically look at their experience. What did they do as part of their work? What was the impact they created? Impact to me is the value that they brought in as a person to the company and team. If they that doesn't show up, then that means that they do not understand that as part of your work, if you talk about your work, you need to talk about the value you created. And when you
mm,
know that already, then I don't have to teach you that when you come to
mm,
my, right? And
mm,
that's the reason when people say you need to have numbers in your resume, you need to have what impact and stuff, it's eventually boils down to, if you join that company, do you need to be told every single project to tell you what to go after? Not something that's because a buzzword out there and you want to do this, AI thing just because you can write that as like, I know this. Or do you want to use probably the same buzzword technology, but actually to do something impactful in the company? And it's a very hard task to change people's value systems. It's very easy to teach them technical skills to some extent if
mm,
they have the
mm,
basics. But
mhm.
the the value system about what is important for them, that's going to be evident in their like
Interesting.
resumes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Basically
That
boiling down to the same thing, impact. What impact you created wherever you were in your,
mm.
and what does resume talk about it?
I love this. I love this. I love how you're always like putting us from the perspective again. Like, that's why I'm enjoying this conversation a lot, just because we have like two positions that we can look from, and you're giving us a lot of value that is important. But when it comes to, let's say, impact, you mentioned a lot about that. People have a different also understanding of what impact means, and from the hiring manager perspective, like what it is that you want to see. Maybe you have some examples like, okay, maybe I gained this many users or improved the engagement rate, or are there like certain metrics that you want to see, or it depends on the position? Like, do the metrics should be the same as the position for the job has, or how do you see?
You're talking about what the impact should be.
Yeah, how it can look like the best. Yeah.
So basically it boils down to what is the the job description talk about, right? If the so you should be basically knowing different types of, so if it's a Silicon Valley big tech, any company in Silicon Valley, they all work very similar. But and if it's Midwest, like the different domains like finance and domains
Mm,
like I think banking, they have different type
of
of
course.
profiles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to understand this before you go in and start applying. I understand it might be too hard for you to come up with a resume for every company. I'm not saying that, but you probably need to have a domain role sort of a resume, right? If it's a banking and all of the different types of domain where it's more traditional, the type of work is more traditional, the expectation is more traditional, and that I'm not a good person to talk about that, because I can give you more of Silicon Valleys and the
Mm,
how data science works in the companies that I'm around, like Meta, Nextdoor, Microsoft, and all these companies that I've been part of. So from that perspective, I see a lot of resumes which are very traditional. Like I look at them and I'm like, it's not catered towards a Silicon Valley, tech job. For
mm,
example, if you're applying for a data science product role, I take coaching too, right? Once in a while when I get some time. Generally, I put very less time to that because of all the things that are happening in my life. But whenever I speak to these people, these are people from Wells Fargo, from Bank of America, actually pretty
mm,
good companies. They're data scientists there, and they've applied to roles at Meta and all these companies, but they don't even get a call back. Because when I look at their resumes, they talk about their work, pretty impactful work actually in their areas, but they do not talk about how that could relate to like a Meta role, or like the Silicon Valley roles, that data science product role, if I'm talking about that specifically, right? When I asked them, did you do any A/B experimentation? Did you do A/B testing? They're like, yeah, I've done that, but they don't put that there because they do not know that importance of that, or what does a data science product role in Meta or in Pinterest or in LinkedIn cater to, because they do not know the description, or they probably did not take time to look through the description and read and understand what the job profile is. They don't have their resume catered towards that role, because we are moving away kind of in these companies from full stack data scientists to different types of data scientists. There's data science product, there's research scientists, the data and applied scientists, they're ML engineer. So the same area, to be honest, if you look at a traditional company, you have one role called data scientist, and they probably do all of this, right? And when you have roles opened up in these big tech or any Silicon Valley tech company, they are generally more like into specific areas. There are roles also which
mm,
might be more full stack data scientist. Like I do have a hiring in future that I'm going to hire for a full stack data scientist, but my job description is going to write about it. I'm going to write about A/B experimentation. I'm going to write about an ML model. Like I'll write about all these too. So
mm,
make sure the order of the job description and what they write about is part of your resume, and you talk about the impact you created in those areas if you've
mm.
worked in that.
Mm, I love that. I love
Okay.
that. And if you do not have experience again for the freshers, then it probably you can take that experience from like running a club or having another startup of your own, trying to get some impact for those metrics. Or how else would they get similar
Projects,
experience?
right, Mary? Projects. I would say your academic projects, hackathons, what you've worked on in a hack, like all of that could be. I mean, A/B exploitation might be slightly harder, but you could, talk about how you've done statistical related, stuff as a project, like what did you go through? Because at the
Mm,
end of the day, AB data science product person needs to be very good at statistics, needs to understand a deep dive like understanding about the product space, and if they can show that as part of their an intern project, they did both the coming up with the problem, how they solve the problem, to how they solve the problem with like a machine learning thing. So all of that you could involve like different facets of it based on the job description is what I'm trying to say.
mm,
Don't So people come with an opinion about this might be important, like AI and LLM is the new thing, and
yeah.
they have the entire resume with AI and LLM while they're applying for a product role. It could be even ML product role,
Oh.
right? You need to know product too, that you need to show that you know product too. They probably would have done that, but they don't talk about, even with experience, they don't talk about the impact they created in the product, the metrics that they moved. They purely talk about the technical areas. So
Mm,
you could probably, I mean, you should write technical. I'm not saying you should not, but
yeah.
there should also be the product angle of it if you are applying for that role. But if you're applying for a research role, if you're applying for a research scientist or an applied scientist, or where it's majorly going to be around you working on the tech and understanding that, you should, I mean, you could probably have that, but you should also talk about what did you do, what difference did your research work in that technical area make. It's all
Mm,
about not just working on something, but what did it do to
mm,
anything, right? It could be a
mm,
metric, it could be a product direction, or it could be maybe you helping reduce man hours. Maybe there was like a customer agent and you removed that and you created like a less customer support system, and there's only one person before you have 15 people, things like that.
mm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, to reiterate, guys, if you do not know what role you're targeting in data science, that's mistake number one. Just because data science is like this huge field that was popularized, I think, within the last decade. But nowadays, we can see there's like completely different functions for each role, and people keep forgetting that product data science is a lot more working with like data and like SQL. And meanwhile, machine learning is completely different and it has to do with more engineering side. Same with research. So all of these roles, you need to be able to streamline your thought and like your application process. And especially with like networking, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that like networking is very important, but how, I feel like many people just don't know how to do it the right way. And some people are asking here, some of them get ghosted all the time. And I think that's like interesting. How can we navigate like networking, especially for introverts?
So yeah, so there are two parts of the question. How do you do the network navigate, and then especially for introverts, right? One very important thing people tend to ignore a lot is their own community. Everyone did bachelor's at some place, everyone did masters at some place, right? You end up having really good friends in those areas, and they have really good friends who were seniors, and their seniors have really good friends. So alumni is a great way to have the first, bond between two people. What is networking about? Like, I really want, maybe I'm getting too detailed about this, making it dumbed down to the basic blocks of what we as like probably human or people get benefit out of on a day-to-day life. We need to, everyone has needs and value systems, right? And why do I, data science manager, have a family of my own, and I'm doing something on YouTube, I'm doing something on LinkedIn. It's just like my life's going crazy right now with too many things. Now I definitely want to help people. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about like probably a person that's doing all these things. If
Mm,
this person needs to value someone, then what is the level, right? Probably a friend of friend would somebody that I'll definitely help first, and then probably maybe someone from where I studied from, back in India or back here in the US where I did masters from. Your whatever it says, hey, I'm from the same college as you, right? I studied the same things.
mm,
And I would love, and I know this professor, I took the same classes as you, something like that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is you leveraging what is in your control. Alumni is in your control, your friends are in your control, your like people around you are in your control, and try to leverage them. S-
mm,
After this, then you go beyond that and just talk to like a 3+ connection on LinkedIn, and you can craft a great creative message to them and stuff like that. But to me,
mm,
did you do your best in leveraging all the people around you? I bet not. I have so many
mm,
people, Mary, my own friends, they have probably their friends boyfriend, friends like sister, cousin sister, they know they work at Apple,
mhm.
they know they do that. I'm like, hey, why don't you reach out to them for a referral? They're like, I'm not sure, I don't know, will it be good if I message them? I'm like, you have a better chance of them replying and referring you rather than this other person you coldly emailed on LinkedIn, right? So,
Yeah.
and also this is why it's important to making sure that even if you don't need that their help today, making sure you keep establishing these relationships, because you might need anyone's help at any point of time. So please be nice to people. Make sure you give value to someone. Probably they have their senior alumni in like a big company you might need help from later. Like I know
Mm,
this feels like you're doing help for the sake of something getting well, but nothing's wrong in that.
mm.
So
I,
basically leveraging your first connections, right? And
mm.
then go do the like cold emailing people you don't even know.
Yeah, when you were saying those things, I remembered back in the day when I had similar situation that I was always kind of like ashamed. I think it's a common thing, to be ashamed to ask for help, especially for people that you know, just because you feel like you're not, I don't know, you're like struggling or like you're asking for a favor. And I think like many people have internal like battles with just asking for a favor, but I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you're doing people a service just because you're trying to like make your own life better. And when you're trying to make your own life better, that means you can help other people better. So I don't know. I think that's like a mental block. What do you think?
It is a mental block. I'll tell you why. Because we are worried about them not replying back, and we take it thinking that I'm not good enough for them, or something like that.
Oh,
Right? So it comes back to thinking, oh, they'll think I'm a failure. Or if they don't reply back now, I have a personal relationship that I have a negative thing on. Rather, I'll have that with this person that I don't even know on the internet with.
oh,
So it comes from a place where you're very self like secured that, I mean, I'm not saying I've not been that, I've been that, right? That's where these ideas
mm,
are coming from, right? So just be prepared for it. You're doing it. That doesn't mean anything if they don't reply back, if they don't do it, if they think you're not fit, probably for whatever reason they think my referrals are supposed to be a certain quality, you might not fit the quality and they don't do it. Be prepared for that. It doesn't, if a person not replying to you does not mean anything about, does not say anything about you as a person, or you
mm,
as you being qualified for that or not. It really does not reflect anything about you. So this is what the basic like attitude of people needs to change a bit. About, if someone didn't think you were good, then you take it as a feedback on about you being like, you being a failure or a success,
yeah.
right? When that gets cut, you probably take constructive feedback, right? What
Mm,
could I probably say better to make sure this wouldn't happen in the next call? And take it like
mm,
that rather than as like a feedback on just you as a whole personality. When we move away from that, maybe I think we'll probably be way more open to just do this more regularly. And I
mm,
don't think it's actually more introvert or an extrovert thing. Even extroverts, like I struggled with it a lot when I was starting
mm,
out. Like before, when I was trying to get internships, I was not sure. I had a cousin in Salesforce. I didn't like. I messaged him once. I called him and I'm like, "Can you please refer?" He said he will, but he didn't. And I was
mm,
not sure about asking him again. I'm like, "Oh, he thought I'm not good for Salesforce. Maybe
mm,
he's worried about his reputation if he refers me." And I stopped like bothering him. And then when we met later in like a family party, he was like, "Hey, I totally forgot about it. Why didn't you remember, make me remind me?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I just thought something else." Right? Even if you thought
oh,
that, it's totally okay. Like,
oh.
we should not take that as a reflection on us as people.
Oh, I
So
love this so much.
sorry if this is more of like a psychological than a data science, but I really think of who we are, even in our professional lives, is so much of who we are as a person. It just reflects
Yes.
into that. Yeah.
No, no, I mean, I think like it's so important to talk about these things because 80% of your success is mental.
Yep.
And if you're not ready to take on so many rejections, not just like taking them, okay, not numbing yourself for like rejections, but also being inquisitive about the reasons why you failed just so that you can improve. And when people forget about like protecting their own like ego or just like when they're secure, they have more space to improve their skills. And I feel like that's very important. So thank you for bringing this up. It's definitely a mental thing. And some people here are also mentioning that they have ADHD, and that's very common for ADHD people too. So yeah, this is awesome. But we do have a little bit of time left, and I do want to talk about your own career. I know we've shared a lot of practical advice already, and guys, prepare for Q&A session towards the end. We'll answer all of your questions then. But Stravia, tell us about like your current role. I know you joined Grammarly recently, and you're a senior manager now. How are you? How are you feeling these days? What are you working on?
I'm pretty excited about Grammarly. I am born and brought up in India, in like southern India, and I made a post about this. It was my first post, almost first post on LinkedIn, where I spoke about how English has been my arch enemy since growing up. Even now, even after all these years, I'm currently communicating in English, but I still uh, like I can think of a word like this in my native language, Telugu, but I can't think of that in English right away. And I struggle still. And so in that process of my struggling English in professional life, I use Grammarly a ton, and I've joined Grammarly now and helping people just better get better at communication. So it's like a big thing for me. I try to join companies where I resonate with the value, right? So probably this is another thing for people. If you really like what the company is working on, then you end up working on stuff that you think are valuable, and you create value, and you end up doing great work that impacts things.
Mm.
So that's the reason why I joined Grammarly, and I'm very excited about the problems that we are solving here. Grammarly is in a very interesting space. There was no one in the space until 2 years ago, and now the space is crowded. Anyone, so our like NLP is like a big thing with LLMs now, right? So
Yeah.
we are in a great space, and we have a lot of great things to do in this space. I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I think like Grammarly is actually has a great reputation among NLP people just because they were one of the first companies to take this more seriously and bring it to production. And I've been always wondering, like, oh my gosh, now that AI is here, Gen AI is here, what are the current NLP folks are doing? Like, I hope they're keeping up with Gen AI. But Grammarly is doing great, so I'm excited. What are they going to do next? But I love their articles. If you guys are into NLP or Gen AI in general, check out Grammarly's engineering blog. I love their blog. But yeah, I wanted to ask, like, maybe you could tell us from your extensive experience what career rules you stick to. Do you have like certain, I don't know, rules for yourself when you reach a certain point at the company? You want to be like moving somewhere else, or are you like a more long term, I don't know, employee, or what is your mindset when it comes to planning your career?
So there are two ways, Mary, for me to think about. Anywhere you are, you need to keep providing value where you are, and you need to keep growing along with it, right? And generally both of them are correlated. You keep giving value, then you keep growing. But if for some reason, I'm learning, another very important thing, learning, providing value, and you keep growing, right? And if either of them for me is becoming a hindrance, that's when I generally try to move out. So
Mm.
I would say, like it I but when you want to provide value, you need to be in sync with the value system of the company, right? If you are not in sync, then you're not going to like do a good job. You'll probably just go work there for salary. So that's nothing wrong with your life situation. If you're in that place, you probably could go and you know work on things like that. But I generally think if you align with the values of the company, it just really helps you become and the type of work that you do and the learning that you're getting from your work, it helps you do good. So for me, it's purely that, like any role where I can learn a ton and I can keep providing value. It's like a ratio. If you are just learning and not providing value, then the company probably would not want you, right? So you need to learn enough and you need to provide enough. And as part of that, provide so much that you keep growing in your career.
Mm. I
Yeah.
love that. I think I heard like a term expiration date. I don't know if that's the one, but like that's where you understand that, oh my gosh, okay, I think my time at this company come to an end just because you're not growing or you're not getting enough impact done. But is there such a thing? Has it been the case for you?
For me, I mean, we all. go through evolution, right? Like who you are when you join a company is entirely different from who you become, and what you want to do based on all these changing data science ecosystems right now, right? So much happening, and you want to be part of a something probably close to that, and that was one big reason why I joined Grammarly, is because it's very close to the current problems that everyone's trying to solve, which is going like being in the AI space than my previous roles, and also getting to still provide the value that I bring in, like my superpowers. Like I get to use them while being in part of a company that I get to learn the AI and the current cutting edge technologies, along with uh, being the mission of the company aligning with mine. So it's as simple as that. If that continues, I'll stay as long as it can. I generally,
Mm.
if that probably changes, then probably I'll think about the next evolution. Yeah.
Got it. Now that we're talking about the current job market state, what do you think is different now? Since you've seen, I'm sure you've seen a lot of like fluctuations and like changes in the job market, but do you think this job market in particular, especially as we're entering 2025, is different? And like, what would you suggest freshers to do in this current situation?
So I would definitely tell people to pick a skill and be really good at it and show that you're really good at it. So there's so many people out there who are actually good at it, but they're pretty bad at selling themselves. So you
Mm,
sell that skill and sell that two ways. Before, like in person selling, when you get on a call with a recruiter, when you get on a call with hiring manager, when you're interviewing, that's in person selling. And there's selling that you could do not in person, with your websites, with your LinkedIn, with your resume, like all of that. There's two ways. There should be information out there about you that you could send before and sell yourself about what you're good at, and how like how effective you're showing what you're good at, number one. And number two is this. But before that, what do you need to know as a person is what do you want to be, and why do you want to be what you want to be? If you are sure about that, because like I said, data is a very wide area. Probably you want to start as a data analyst, probably you want to start as a data engineer, probably you want to do data science product or ML engineer, or what is it? What is it that aligns with who you are, what your superpowers, what you're really good at? And then deep dive on that, pick a skill, show how you're good at it, and like make sure you have Git for profile, make sure you probably have a website of your own, or like showcase your portfolio somewhere if you're starting out, right? And then go for it. Another thing that I'd like to say, probably, so this is what, like I mentioned, Gene's episode talks about in our podcast too, is um, he was talking about how he started as like a business analyst with like a very good degree in like technical area, but he back then applied for data, like in data science in Google and all these places, but he joined as a business analyst in like I in a finance company, right? And he just took the role that he could and that he had access to. Though he wanted to get somewhere, you basically start somewhere, right? You start somewhere that you have the closest access to, keeping your eyes and keeping everything. You have a long term plan, you know where you want to go to, but you keep making steps short term in the direction of the long term. The
mm,
problem that I see in current people is, they nothing wrong in aiming for FANG, nothing wrong in aiming for a really good startup or a big tech, right? You definitely do that. You need to be ambitious, but you definitely need to have something safe to land on right before you. If not, even the safe jobs are going to go away, right? So I would say the safe jobs are like, get somewhere and try to get into the area that you want to go to in that company, and then
mm,
slowly shift and slowly shift. So in this podcast, so everyone should probably know Dawn Chu. She is our, like, data science content creator. We also did a podcast with her. It got released like, this week. So she actually joined as a quantitative analyst in finance, I think. uh, Totally different than what she wanted to be, because she had a Meta, back then Facebook's intern, as data scientist. She couldn't get a full time position from the internship. So she knew she wanted to get there, but it took her 6 to 7 years to get there.
wow.
She joined as a quantitative analyst in a company that she could basically, she apparently applied to 100 and just got one job in something related to data, not anywhere close to what she want to be, but she joined that. And then she moved to tech because tech makes it easier to jump. So she moved, the closest tech job it was business analyst in Amazon, entirely different from data scientist. Like if you talk to a data science college graduate today and ask them if you join, if they are in their first year, maybe I'll bet. Like if you would ask me, I would have also said the same. And you have told them, would you join like a business analyst job? They would probably be thinking of an ML engineer, right? They would say no. I don't want to join a BA job. BA job's not what I want to be, right?
Yeah.
They probably maybe not even apply some of them, right?
Yeah.
But she went there and she did the work as a data science work there, but or ETL work, which was a BI engineer work. She got into BI engineering and then she applied for data science product at Meta, and then she got into data science, and then later on, like
Wow.
you know what she's doing.
Yeah. Wow. No, yeah, definitely. If you guys don't know Dawn Chu, she's also a content creator on LinkedIn, and I love her story so much because there's been like sacrifices that she made, but at the end of the day, she achieved all of the goals that she wanted. And I feel like people forget to look in the long term of their career. They think like, that's it. I only have 6 months. This or never.
Yep.
If I don't get the role that I want, then I'm never gonna go after it. But yeah, that's a black and white thinking, guys. It's all about long term, and do check out her story. And we have actually a session with her that we did earlier this year on our YouTube channel as well. But I love how, you inspire, Strive. You have this like thing to like inspire people with action. I don't know. I feel like, what do you guys think? Put in the chat if you guys are ready to like apply all of the lessons that you learned today, because I think there's been many insightful lessons. And yeah, I had a couple more questions before we head to the Q&A session. I did want to talk about, let's see, we covered a lot of things today. Oh yeah, Gen AI. So Gen AI is like huge. And only yesterday I've been talking to one of my mentees, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I love AI just because like, but I want to get a business analytics job, but I love AI." I'm like, these two are so different. You have to pick, and you have to focus on the fundamentals. But in your experience, especially since you like transitioned to a new company, have there been cases where they want you to know what transformers are, what foundation models are, or do they want you to already like have worked with those tools before, or do you think that's still a separate subject?
So there are two things, Mary. Even in the current world, so in interviews, are you asked about it? No. In your current, because there's still so many basic aspects of foundational aspects that you need to be really good at to even get there, right? So you need to understand like linear regression and homoscedasticity, like all this like basic stuff about statistics 101, right? Before you get there, at least currently in the data science job world, right? There are, if it's an ML related data science job, then you have like, second level, like ML, not 101, but also 201 and all those questions around it. But specifically to transformers, data science product roles, I would say no. Maybe you have like AI engineer roles and things like that where you're asked about it. But data science product roles, definitely not. We check for causal inference techniques and all these different things for sure. Yeah.
Mm, got it. Yes, that should be more clear for you guys who think AI is everything. AI is not everything, and it won't be for a long time. But there's another interesting question that I did want to ask you. Do you think imposter syndrome is something that maybe is one of the biggest problems that put people like just behind in their careers, just because you need so much confidence actually to be able to prove your worth during the interview? Especially, I know in one of your other podcasts you mentioned that 80% of the time you get to know if the person is right or not for this job within the five first minutes. So,
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, imposter syndrome, I keep hearing about this so much. I think it comes from a place where you're not our expectation of what other people know. We think that we are the only people that do not know and everyone else knows. Uh, and that's definitely not true. Everyone around you is in the same situation as you, and everyone is trying to learn and get their way and understand. So I think even Dawn mentioned this, like how funny that we are talking about this, because it's the same thing everyone goes through. So Dawn mentioned this in her internship. So I asked her, she got a Facebook internship. I'm like, how great is that, getting an internship at Facebook? But I was asking her, hey, what is it that made you not convert that into full time and compared to like your peers? And she said that I had a big imposter syndrome when I got an internship at Facebook. I decided that I am not good enough or my opinions does not matter, and I just kept calm. And obviously, when the people try to hire full time, they would want to hire someone who would, like, has an opinion and want to make a difference and things like that. And she was like, that came from a place that I'm not good enough and the imposter syndrome, right? And later
Mm.
on, apparently, the end, some point, someone told her that, hey, you think at Meta people knows what they do? No one knows what they do. And that just is what she says that stuck with her, to make sure that she reminds herself every time she gets into that situation that, hey, no one knows what they're doing. We are just learning from our past mistakes, learning from whoever has done this in the past, and keep moving forward. So, the good thing about the imposter syndrome, guys, is the humbleness that it gives you. You are grounded. You're not on top of the world thinking, oh, I'm so good at this and stuff, which is good. That's the only good part about imposter syndrome. Nothing else is good about it, right? Be humble, be sure about, aware of what you are and what you need to learn, but never be insecure or ashamed of what you could bring to the world, because everyone can bring something to this, like, to wherever they are. Everyone has a value that they bring in.
I
Yeah.
love this. I love this. One of my favorite sayings about this is nobody expects you to know everything. They just want to understand if you're able to do this job and bring an impact and learn as you go. Just because that's why people say you need to be coachable, and that's what they mean by like being coachable.
So that's another big thing I would observe in the first 5 minutes is self-awareness and how people are. Like, if I'm talking right now, Mary, like I'm talking with you, you are responding to my cues. You have something to say, but I'm continuing, you kind of paused, right? And making me complete my sentence. And probably if you're talking and I have something to say, then you probably try to end your sentence and make me, like, let me talk. I'm telling you, this doesn't happen in interviews. People
Wow.
have a 4 minute or a 5 minute thing that they want to say, and they continue saying it irrespective of the cues from the other person. People are not aware,
Mm,
like self-aware themselves, that I'm
mm,
probably, like, talking too much about this, or I'm not listening to the other person. They need to, like, think of something and they just complete it. And that
mm,
is what I said, like the first 5 minutes kind of tells how they're going to be in the next 25 minutes of the interview. And which
mm.
is probably going to be a no if the first 5 minutes is a bad. Yeah.
I love this. Wow, like I think this is like a interesting aspect that nobody talks about, like being self-aware. Just because you have like this a tiny amount of time where you have to like show the best self, like your best version of yourself, and people think it you need to be talking all the time, which is not the case. So this is a great point. But let's open up for Q&A, and we can go over your questions, guys. Put them in the chat, and let's ask Stravia everything about the process, the hiring process, data science career. Yeah, let's see. Maybe I've missed some questions. Stravia, if you have any favorite questions in the chat, let me know. I can bring them up too.
Yeah, let me just go through some of them. So I just hear someone with 4.5 experience of product analytics and having worked on EV testing, predictive modeling. How should a master student strategize for DS role? So I'm assuming they had this experience before masters and then they did masters. Uh, uh, I'm not sure about it, but the strategy to me is basically understanding what is the domain you'd want to work at and making sure you understand the domain, because you want to craft messages to the people before you so uh okay, let me just take a step back. So the strategy is basically finding someone to help refer you to the position that you're interested in. But to find that, you need to be sure about what are the companies that you want to, target, and do you know enough about the companies to make sure your message is structured in the way that gets the attention of the person. So that's the first step, making sure you have done everything that you can to get you the first call. The resume being applying, like making sure that you know what a data's product role is about, and make sure your resume is catered to that role. And also the companies that you want to apply for, and knowing enough about them, researching enough about them, and then going after it. So yeah, that would be like the strategy.
Awesome. I think we have this interesting question. I think I always keep thinking that people know already the difference, but many people are confused. What is the difference between data science, AI, ML, and data engineering?
Wow. Yeah, to be honest, when I do these coaching calls with people, the first 5-10 minutes I go into answering these questions. If when I ask the question and they say the answer, if they don't know it, I explain that, and they're like, wow, this is something I did not know. So yeah, I basically tell this from a perspective that, like, imagine your data is the hero, and it has like like the main role in a movie, and there are multiple characters that take that over from there, sort of a thing. So data is generated from every application that you use, guys, right? And it is in raw format, and this needs to be taken from this raw format into a place that it's usable. That's data engineering for you. Taking the raw format, like the tons and tons, every single log, like every single second of what we're doing is stored, right? And all of that sits in these humongous databases. And someone needs to look at what's important, what's not, and mine it and make it available for all the different roles that come on top of that, which is the data science AI ML roles that come on top of that. And once you have the data in a digestible format, then people who could digest it basically come. One is the metrics, who basically take care of dashboarding and all of that. In the past, we used to call them BI analysts or data analysts. The current world, at least in the Silicon Valley, is shifting towards analytical engineers. You call them ANEng in short, or like MLeng, you call them ANEng, analytical engineers. In the past, I would probably see them as like BI engineers, BI analysts, or or data analysts. So these people take this data and make sure they have really good business rules on top of it, and create great dashboards and metrics for leadership. And then there is data science product role. This role makes sure they use the data to help with day-to-day experimentation on the product space, deep dive, understand, segment users into multiple areas, and come up with these insights that help product look into as the next important thing to work on. So they help build product roadmap, they help come up with hypotheses, what's working, what's not working, through multiple ways of technical tools, from basic statistics to advanced statistics like models and statistical modeling and causal inference and all that. And then comes ML engineering, who actually takes this data and creates production level, like application level models, like all the stuff that you see on Amazon, Netflix about recommendations. All of that is ML engineering work. And there are some data science scientist, applied scientist work as well in there. But if it gets deployed, and it's like where you care about the latency and how fast you're getting a recommendation, all of that is MLE and ML ops for you. And now we have AI engineering, probably, where we have, I don't know, customer chat boxes replaced with like an AI agent. I mean, that's a different topic altogether. But all of that is like AI engineering, and trying to help with prompt engineering, and how could you take the customer query and find an answer within your existing data repository of answers, and probably give an automated response, and things like that. So yeah.
Wow, I think Isra, I think that was like one of the best explanations, breakdowns of the data roles actually. So thank you for doing that. This was perfect, guys. If you didn't know, I this is the recording that will be saved on YouTube. If you ever have the same question, then you should come back to this. But yeah, let's take a few more. We can take, I don't know, two, three, and wrap this up because we're already over 1 hour. But let's see. Mm, let me know if you like anything. Oh, I like this one. How can a person with career gap stand out or network effectively?
Yeah. Uh, to me, if whatever the career gap is, if you have a strong reason behind it, or if you say that what you've learned from the career gap, right? That's amazing if you can probably do that. Probably if it's something that you cannot talk about, that's fine as well. But how do you think why do you think the hiring manager should give you a chance over a person that probably has experience, or probably is coming out of a graduate degree, or probably, thinking that they are another person? You need to have a strong reason of why someone should hire you, and you need to provide that value. So to me, you should probably show that with your portfolio, should probably show that with all the work that you are still, if you're hired, could do today. Because your work should not be what you've done before the career gap, but more about how real time you are for today's needs of the, technologies and ecosystems. Because I understand people have career gaps, there are reasons behind it and things like that, but you need to be able to showcase that you're still employable, that you are still at par with everyone else, and you have to slightly work harder when compared to all the people that have no career gaps.
I love that. Yes, I think like especially for career gaps, one of the things that you could put that could help you is I took this time off and I used this time to for self-directed study, and many people cannot afford that, especially like I feel in our field there's so much to be learning every single day, and learning is something that people value, and there's nothing to be ashamed of if there's a career gap. You just have to, like you rightfully pointed out, show that you are real time with today's technology because it's moving really fast. And if you say, okay, I took this time off because I'm building my portfolio, I'm trying to get to this new field, I have these amazing projects, I understand the industry and whatnot, then you're still competitive. So don't cancel yourself out before a hiring manager does. Um, all right, what do we have here? Uh, Tamil is asking, when someone has a what is it, BE and ECE and MS in CS, do you think it would deviate the recruiter when they review the resume for a data role? Should we skip mentioning about BEC? Do you know what
Yeah,
BEC?
I think they mean electronics. If
Okay.
imagine someone has a bachelor's in electronics and a master's in computer science, how does that help if you
Uh,
want to do something in computer science? Like, I mean, they're basically talking about changing domains. It doesn't have to be bachelor's, master's, it could be anything. You could probably be like, I don't know, an entirely new person, like worked in finance and want to become like a data science or ML person by probably self-learning or doing something. Then how would you talk about it in
mm,
your recruiter calls and stuff? So there are two ways to it. I really think any domain can have some transferable skills if it's there are problems and you're solving these problems. The problem could be electronics, the problem could be computers, the problem could be data, the problem could be ML. So the basic analytical mindset and attitude is going to be the same anywhere and everywhere, even if it's finance, right? So you should be able to convey the type of problems you solved from that point of view, that you understand for how to define a problem, you know how to break down a problem and go after the problem, right? And all these things are just tools to solve that, and depending on the type of problem it is, right? So I probably don't think that's an issue, especially for ECE and CS, because you learn programming languages as an electronics graduate as well. I remember that, like, back from India. If you've done it at India or in the US, you basically take some programming languages. You can always talk about the intersection between these areas, is what, like, whatever are the two areas, and tell that you've done that, focus more on the intersection work that you've done as part of your role. I mean, if you think you have enough to talk about your masters, then you can skip talking about the previous roles altogether. But if you think there is something that stands out from your previous domains that could help you build a better case, then you can.
mm. It's all about building a good story that is valuable. I love this. And Sashwat is asking, he's trying to transition to product data science from previously working in data science in traditional healthcare domain. And I think, yeah, this is relevant.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So, like I said, product data science. So what is transfer? The tons of transferable skills as a data scientist in traditional healthcare to data science product. The transferable skills are the tools. Statistics is definitely used. All the like the technical aspects of being a data scientist in traditional healthcare domain is used the same way in product data science. Statistics, I'm sure, basic ML or even slightly advanced ML as a data scientist there. So that should not be SQL. That shouldn't be a problem. The problem here would be to understand what is the product company you're applying for, and making sure you understand the metrics and business goals of that company, and you're able to talk to it, right? You're able to showcase that type of work in your traditional domain data science work, because we have worked, like you said, 3 years in a company, and you have 3 or 4 bullet points to talk about it. You choose what those 3 or 4 bullet points are going to be about. You make sure you choose the stuff that aligns with the job description of a product data scientist, which are more around deep dive understanding about like the user ecosystem of traditional healthcare. Maybe you've done that work. Probably if you want to apply to another traditional healthcare that's not as important, maybe they would care about your technical skills a lot more, or they would care about you being healthcare and the details of healthcare a lot more. But for product, we would care about your problem solving and your understanding of the ecosystem of wherever you were at, healthcare versus not, and how did you affect the business ecosystem with your work as a data scientist there. So if you could showcase that in your resume, that's number one. And the other thing is about, I'm not sure if you had experience with A/B testing in your company. If you don't, I would totally encourage you to start learning in your company. Does A/B testing even happen? If
Hmm.
it happens, which roles do that? And try to make sure you do some stretch project with accompanying those people in those roles. You basically do your work and slightly do some extra work to get some experience there, and use that as a lever to, in your resume, and talk about it in future. So that's those are two things I would say. Yeah.
I love this. And I think many people have like confusion around certificates, honestly. I like Justin is asking here, are Microsoft certifications like these and from Databricks, Snowflake, do they still like matter? And do as a hiring manager, do you care about them?
So I would like every again building blocks, guys. Going back to the building blocks. Why is the person trying to hire you? Because you are there to come and make a difference and provide value. Does the certification itself provide value? No. If you applied those certifications and show me that you applied and you know how to apply, then probably yes. So does person with no certifications with the certifications make a difference? Probably slightly, yes. The
Hmm.
same Justin Garcia with nothing in the certifications versus same just sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, with certifications, yes, maybe slightly makes a difference. But you know who makes a difference? A person without certifications and has shown a portfolio, if you don't have experience to show that they've done the work in that, they would probably trump the person with certifications too.
Hmm.
So for you, the certifications are helpful probably to make sure you learn that, and you have a goal towards learning that you get a certificate in it. It helps you for your own learning, right? You learn something from that certification, I'm sure, right? But you need to show that you applied your learning, and that's when it's going to make a difference. So it makes some difference, but not enough to be the only reason why you get hired.
I love that. Fundamentals first, guys. But let's take one more question before we wrap this up. Thank you so much, Sarvia, for your time and going through people's use cases. But oh, and they did want to know where can they find your podcast, actually. So if you guys can head to Stravia's LinkedIn page, she has. I think you have an announcement post there, right?
Yes,
Or
and
one of
it's also in my featured post, but I don't know if we can send a chat here.
Yes, I
Uh,
can you? If not, I can share it here.
so I just It says private chat. Did someone get it?
Oh no, no, it's between us.
Oh, okay. How do I message here? Probably not.
There should be a chat. If not, then I can. Okay, cool. You have a got it. So I shared in the chat with you
Yes.
guys, and let's pick one last question before we wrap it up.
Also, you can find it on my LinkedIn profile, guys. It's one of my featured posts. The first thing you'd see is my podcast. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Uh, is there anything that stand out to you? I think we covered. What about this one? What do you think?
What is your view on job descriptions that have multiple requirements like ETL?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. So there is every role has an aspect of this. So my role actually says data science product, right? Or data science full stack maybe in future whenever I'm going to have hiring in my team. But I have a couple of data scientists in my, sister team who are working with Gen AI right now, right? They probably might not need to understand LLM modeling, but they need to understand like how to interact, how to prompt engineer and work with MLE and MLOps to do it. So I would say this person knowing it maybe 5% would be enough for that role. If I want them to work on a project, on a Gen AI project with ML engineer, I don't want them to know like the transformer architecture and write a code for me, or about like how do you like fine tune like into the details of the model, right? I want them to be able to understand these, to try and figure out which output, how evaluate the model output and all of that, but not into the details of it. But maybe this role is going to have a job description because I'm going to say that, hey, 5 to 10% of the work would be working with a Gen AI product with an ML engineer. And if I probably tell that to my recruiter, they'll probably add these keywords in my job description. But does that mean it's 100% of the work? No, not at all. So basically, try and understand what the job role talks about at the start. And there are aspects of everything in data that your work will be, right? And they probably will add all of them. Some of them maybe will add because it probably shows up in like people search if they are wanting to like work in these domains, it show up. But like the short answer is people will not basically work on these for 100% of their time. They'll probably a lot, like I would say 40% on MM modeling, 20-30% on ETL, and maybe another 20%, like maybe 20-20-20 or 30-30-30, and then 10% on Gen AI LLM if it's not a AI engineer. If
Mm,
it is an AI engineer, probably everything shifts, like the percentages. I
mm,
really think we have 10 or 15 different types of like tools or different types of work, and the percentage of that will define the role. So if you're talking about a data engineer, it would be a lot more ETL, and maybe you should add Spark, PySpark, and all those. So it'll be a lot more that, and almost zero ML modeling and some analysis, and maybe some Gen AI if they are having pipelines to feed into Gen AI. They need to understand that workspace. So if you are a data full stack person, then I would say it's going to be more uniform, like the number that falls. So you'll probably do ML modeling, you'll probably do ETL, you'll probably do analysis, and very less of Gen AI, LLM, and ML ops. If you're an ML engineer, probably less of ETL, almost null, or very, I mean, depending on what type of ML engineer you are, more of ML modeling, some analysis, maybe slightly more Gen AI, LLM, ML ops. So depending on the role, the percentages differ, but probably some job descriptions have every touch point that people do in their career. That doesn't mean that you need to know 100% of all of this.
mm. Thank you so much. Actually, I was gonna say this was gonna be a last one, but I found another better last question, if we may. Because I
Okay.
think this is a common, I really want them to get the answer from you. So, somebody has worked as Sai worked as a robotic process automation and data analyst, but he was not able to make any impact in getting his resume selected. What do you think, like, could be wrong, and what if, like, I also was wondering, people find that they did not make an impact in their previous role. And I think that's like a common thing. And how can one frame that like value driven, impact driven results? How can they find it if they don't have access to metrics, or they don't think they even made an impact?
The two things, I doubt if people didn't make an impact. You were hired, right? You were at the company, I would say more than 2 months at least, if you have an experience. Because, guys, if you did not make an impact, people wouldn't make you stay more than 2 months.
Oh.
You would have been laid off or fired or whatever. So you
Mm,
stayed because paying you money helped get the company get some money more than what they were paying you. All you need to know is how much did your role help the company make. And this is very important. If you end up getting a job, say somewhere, you should know from now on at least what you're doing and how is it, why is company paying you to do what you're doing. Company is getting something from you. And the problem, Mary, is people just don't know that. People don't bother to know that when they're younger, especially. They just work on tasks and get away with it. They don't follow up on what the task gave to the company or to the role or to the person, right? Imagine people are doing, so I'll give an example. Probably this will help Sai too. Data analysts, most of them, they probably do dashboards, right? They help maybe get queries done and stuff. So what does a dashboard do? Dashboard help leadership understand what's going up, what's going down, and make strategic decisions, right? So imagine there's a data analyst whose work is coming up with this dashboard for revenue. What does that mean? That this data analyst was assigned a task of looking at $100 million of revenue. If he does a bad job, then what would happen? They would probably see a 90 million revenue or 80 million revenue. Then the entire company would, does not make sense. So for me, the type of data analyst job that they've done, that I have looked into, looking at millions of revenue database and showcase that data to make strategic decisions that helped C-suite makes strategic decisions. The only thing is you probably did not think about it that way. You just made a
mm,
dashboard in your head, but that's what happened with your dashboard. So talk to people from your previous companies, talk to managers if possible, talk to people at your current company and try to understand what your role is helping the company with. The more you understand that, guys, the more you're going to go up in the ladder in your own company too, because
mm,
you'll probably do that more and more, right? You're like, oh, this work helped the company this much, but this did not, so maybe I should do this work more because it's helping the company more. If it helps company more, gain more dollars, it gives back some percentage of to you, right? In your bonus or in your promotion. So
mm, mm.
I think it's the mindset, that having that mindset of understanding what you're doing and how it's impacting the place that you're at.
I love this. This is amazing. I think that was one of the most important points that you made today. But oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much information you just shared with us, Savia. Thank you so much for coming in today. We're blessed to have you in our community and learning from you. So if you guys haven't followed Stravia, please do so. And another great thing that you could do is, why don't you write a 3 takeaway key lessons that you learned from today's podcast session with Stravia, and share it on LinkedIn. That way we can support each other, engage, and connect with each other. Also, make sure to put your LinkedIn profile links if you want to network with other people in data. And yeah, this is a community, and we're always hosting events like these. And yeah, thank you so much, Stravia, for coming in today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Mary, and thank you, everyone. Yeah, see you all around. Bye.
Awesome. Bye. Oh, whoever is here, one more thing before we wrap this up. The official launch has been like actually this week, and we're excited to give more value with our community. And if you're someone who is currently in master's degree, or you're transitioning to a new field in data and you do not know what to do and you're feeling overwhelmed, then this program, this community is perfect for you, because we have these type of career related sessions regularly, and we also have accountability coaching where you can set goals and actually achieve them with the group of people. So if you enjoyed today's session, you're going to enjoy a lot more what's happening inside the community, Breaking Data Pro community. And I am looking forward to seeing more people and just like having more people succeed in their careers, because let's face it, there's not that much guidance out there. You're on your own in your job search. So this would be perfect if you are getting serious and if you don't want to pay thousands of dollars to consultancy firms that help you land a job. It's usually like 10% of your salary. We don't do that because we believe that more people needs to gain access to career related roadmaps and materials. So that's why we're doing this. And feel free to join here, just because the first 20 people will get the first $200 coaching call for free. And this is only for like the first 20 people, just because this is a founding member option that we have for you guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there. And we're going to have a lot more coding challenges and engagement oriented things for everyone to do, so that we can build new habits, build new skills, and land a dream job. So if you haven't already, sign up today. And I don't know if you guys can see the, yeah, I think the QR code, whichever QR code you can scan, feel free to do so, because I'm gonna close the session for today. And another great announcement that we have is for the next week, we have an amazing panel coming up on data science portfolio building to get the callbacks from hiring managers and recruiters. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be announcing on our newsletter, Break Into Data, and on my LinkedIn. So we're going to have a lot more value for this month, just because January and February is the hottest months on the year for like getting a new job, for going through interviews, because companies are opening up new positions. And I want you to be ready for that time. So don't you think, like, I mean, the holidays are coming up, but we need to be prepared for the next few couple months. So thank you guys for coming in today again. And it was a pleasure. And I will see you guys next time. Bye bye. How do I end?